Good afternoon, John Donovan.
Hey, Marty Keller.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
hmm
Welcome to our viewers to the Intentional Living Podcast, this weekly conversation between myself and John Donovan. I'm here in Sacramento, California. John's down in beautiful Oceanside, California. And
hmm
in this podcast, we take a look at dealing with behaviors that uh, we find ourselves engaging in, and even though we don't really want them.
hmm
It's like we have these patterns of behaviors as human beings that seem disconnected from our conscious intentions. We may find ourselves having an argument with somebody and realizing that in the middle of it, it's like, no, I don't really want to be doing this, and the energy keeps us going anyway. So
Right.
we may indulge in behaviors that our conscious mind says stop, and we can't stop. Or conversely, we may want to initiate behaviors that our mind says we should, and we don't do it. And that may have to do with exercising. I say I want to exercise on a regular basis, and I just don't do it.
Right.
So how do we demystify these behaviors? How do we get our arms around what's going on internally in our inner world and make something different? And that's what the intentional living practice that John, you developed many years ago, and I've been a practitioner of now for a long time as well, uh, is designed to do. This helps us see these frames or these behaviors and create new ones and replace them,
Yeah.
not squash them, not make them wrong, but to generate something more powerful than that which we've had. And last week we talked a bit about um, how the process of doing this sometimes doesn't make sense to the mind as we begin these journeys toward a new way of living, a new way of being with ourselves, a new way of uh, creating behaviors. And we left the at the end of our conversation, as you may recall, we talked about how we can confuse uh, even things as fundamental as kindness and love. And that for many of us, the source of these behaviors that we find ourselves stuck with comes from childhood, comes from unhealed trauma, something that social scientists and psychologists have begun only recently to identify as complex PTSD,
hmm
which I call the unhealed trauma of 1,000 paper cuts.
Yep.
Little constant little things that we endured as children that were harmful, but if only happened once, it wouldn't have been harmful, but they happened over and over and over again. Who do you think you
hmm
are? I'll give you something to cry about. Shut up, I don't want to hear you. Those constant messages. Or they could also be the obvious, like, or the reverse. They could be just being ignored when we wanted to be taken care of and validated. Just there was nobody there for us. So
hmm
what we're doing in this intentional living practice is learning a whole new way of being with ourselves, of creating and generating actual, genuine, authentic love. And one of the things that we talked about last week, John, is that we were talking about kindness, and we talked about that kind of false, phony kindness that we might have displayed when we were using it to try to get something for ourselves.
Right.
We talked about that as essentially being conditional, whereas genuine kindness has no conditions. We're kind to ourselves or to other people and with no expectation of anything in return. We just do it because it's a natural state of being. And
Right.
so too, I've come to discover about love, that love itself is has no conditions. I don't love with expectation of having anything in return. Um, but boy, when I was younger, before I did this work, I was full of expectations.
hmm
Uh, so we thought that we left it last week. We thought we might spend a little bit of time today talking about your insights from an exercise that you call Love Equals, about
hmm
learning about what authentic love is and how to actually generate it for ourselves and others. as opposed to that almost desperate sense of love that we have is, when we have unhealed trauma, where we're desperately looking for validation, we're desperately looking for approval, we're desperately looking for a sense of being taken care of, and we secretly don't believe we deserve it, and we secretly repel it.
Yeah, and we actually create an environment that reproduces how it was in our childhood, which was conditional, somehow conditional.
Exactly.
And yet we're not understanding or doing that consciously. I'm not saying people do that consciously. It's a survival mechanism that I got life, my being alive, my capacity to stay alive was to ascribe, that's not the right word, ascribe to a condition, and that meant I got to be loved, which was dismissing myself in some cases, or not paying attention, not looking after my own welfare. Somebody else's welfare was more important than my welfare because that's how I survived. And we were talking last week about having a point of reference or a frame of reference that we evaluate everything that we see through this frame of reference. And that frame of reference is what you alluded to as old information, past information, how it worked, and then evaluated it based on past information. And one of the things I believe we said last week is Einstein said, and this hooks into that frame of reference, you cannot solve a problem with the consciousness or the frame of reference that you had creating the problem. You must look for something new. And then we're the best I can, the best you can, we're trying to challenge that, what I know, frame of reference, what I know to be true, how it is, and then how do we let in something new? There was in one part of my recovery, I was thinking about my ex-wife, and she said she loved me, and you know, I actually believed her. I actually believed her that she loved me. Now, the actions or the her behavior was in her mind in that frame in how love is. What I got somehow, some way is that the way she has framed this love and relationship hurts. That there's something I feel hurt. It's like we talk about our parents, and we talk about the dysfunction coming from our parents or the abuse coming from our parents. I'm not saying that the parents didn't love you or they did this on purpose. They were coming from what they knew: love, relationship, family, father, mother, that frame of reference, and they stayed in that. And in that, I experienced trauma. So I was, I don't know, 10 years into my recovery, and I was in an argument with my ex-wife. And it was one of those kind of arguments where spit was coming out of both our mouths. You know, it's like, you this, you that, no, no, you this, you that. And at one point in that argument, she said, John, it's like you want me to call you crazy. And of course, from my frame of reference, no, I don't want you to call me crazy. And we continued the argument. And at one point, Marty, she said, okay, John, here it is. You're crazy. And a little voice in my head went, see, told you. And I, oh my God. Oh my God. I had said, I knew that before. I had made a presupposition that, oh, I this doesn't make sense to me. This hurts. I don't understand this. And yet it's true. When she said that, it's like, see, told you she would do that. And it's like, oh, I expect her to do that. What? Oh. So she left. I went in and laid down, and I thought, this is too painful. I actually got mad at recovery God, the whole thing. It's like,
Sure.
screw this. I'm going to go get hammered. screw you and your recovery. It hurts too much. I don't understand this. And I just keep doing it over and over and over. And that's that pattern of behavior. Picking um, relationships that this always manifested. Okay. So I laid down, I put on some music. It was drumming music, meditation. And I thought, oh, okay, what does 12 step tell me to do? How do I like resolve? Oh, forgiveness. Oh, if you forgive, then you'll feel. So I said, okay. So I went to my safety place, and in this place, all my invisible means of support, and I was Catholic, so they're like angels, nice entities to like console me and just listen. I said, okay, I'm here to forgive her. I'm going to forgive her. I'm going to be noble. And then all those invisible means of support started laughing. They were laughing with each other, and I go, "Oh, whoa! What's so damn funny?" Well, again, you tell me to forgive, and it's not working. You think it's funny, so I got mad again. Screw you! And then the thought came, John, she didn't do anything to you. You didn't ask her to do. And I for some reason, for some unknown, unfathomable reason, I had postured in a crazy way so she would say I'm crazy. Okay, I got that. I didn't understand it. I got that. So, John, she didn't do anything to you. You didn't ask her to do it at all. And then I heard, John, you got being loved mixed up with rejection. And when I heard that, Marty, my whole life made sense. Every relationship I was in made perfect sense. Every job I took made perfect sense. I took jobs where I could isolate and be alone. I was a welder, I had leathers on to protect me and a big old helmet. If somebody gets too close, I'll strike an arc, get away from me. And yet this wasn't conscious, but everything in my life revolved around me experiencing rejection. Now, how could love be mixed up with rejection? Okay, here's what happened. When I was born, I was second. My mother wanted a girl child. John had a penis, not a girl child. So I love you, but you're not enough. Rejection. My dad, who was a redheaded, blue-eyed Irishman, wanted a white baby. My mother was Hispanic. So my dad, I love you, John. There's something wrong with you. So I was born, if we think about these emotions, love, acceptance, as having weight, say they had weight, and I really believe they have weight. I was born into an atmosphere void of acceptance. So I got this. This is what love is. If you add acceptance in there, then it's not love. Somehow, some way, some. So I
you mean
wanted to
genuine
create this
acceptance.
love, genuine acceptance.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So I look for this energy field, and it's like in 12 steps they say, I could walk into a room of 100 women, and the one that thought I needed to improve the most, I would fall in love with. And that's exactly what I did. I would feel in love. I'd get that body chemistry, that love chemistry, and I'd be all giving myself up and posturing and doing weird things and wanting to be in love and make this person stay.
And there's no doubt incredible sexual energy intertwined in that.
All that body chemistry, all that love chemistry there. And it's okay, so I'm in love. Guess what? It was with a person who thought I needed to improve, just like it was with my parents. So this relationship, I would like to say they matured. Very rarely did I mature in a relationship. The relationship continued, and then if she genuinely accepted me, I would do something so that would go away. and that's when she said, John, you want me to say you're crazy. I was posturing like a crazy man. I was saying no when I meant yes. I was saying yes when I meant no. I was changing it after she asked me the third time. And she goes, John, that's crazy. Well, because for me to stay alive in love, this had to be absent. And it wasn't rational, it was in a feeling tone. And then I had the thought, my whole life made sense. And then I had this, the question was asked to me, what would you want to change it to? And the word acceptance, this is where reject acceptance. Oh, and then I heard myself say, to me now, love equals acceptance. And Marty, everything shifted. It was like this embodiment of a whole new frame of reference just appeared. After my meditation, I went outside of my apartment and I was behind a shopping mall, and they have these wine barrels full of half wine barrels full of dirt, and they put plants. And I walked by this wine barrel with this cascade of plants growing out of these flowers. And it was like, wow, these are beautiful. I could see the red. It's almost like I could see, hear, taste, touch, smell all at the same time. It was incredible. And I thought, wait a minute, I've been walking by this thing for the last 6 months. It's always been there. How come I see it now? Oh, if I saw that, how do I see that through the filter of rejection? Everything changed. I was more discriminate about the people I hung out with. I was aware of how I would posture instead of, oh my God, I don't have to do this anymore. My whole life changed. And I have an exercise where I take people through and I lead them through this experience, because we've all had something similar. That whatever my parents were going through, whether it was self-doubt, whether it was, oh my God, working so hard and trying to support a family of 5 is hell. We picked up that energy, and that's what it means to be a man. That what it needs to be a woman. Below our consciousness level. See, my mother never said, actually she did, you should have been the girl. She actually said that. You should have been the girl. When you were born, I was expecting a girl, and you were a boy. Oh wow. So another form of, and then she said, and I knew, I love you. I know that's true, with the missing element of acceptance. So that's what I look for in my life. And these patterns, you can pick a word like relationships equal. My relationship with my mother, my relationship with my father, my siblings, my school friends, relationship equals. So job equals, career equals, friendship equals. Oh my God. And all this was in a frame of reference. I had no idea that it was so constricting until I started doing this recovery, trying to find out, how do I break this pattern? And I learned most of this, what I call body of work, when I was facilitating inside Sacramento County Jail, working with violent offenders and addicts, and how to stay connected with them. I learned not be judgmental. So I don't care why you're here. I want to know what you want, and then how to assist you, empower you to move to what you say you want instead of what you've been doing. And so this intentional living accountability tree process, say the truth of where I'm at. I have love mixed up with rejection. That's my truth. Breathe, not try to figure it out. Just know the results. The results never lie. If I find myself needing to drink every day to get by, there's something in life that I want to avoid. With what? Oh, my feelings of being rejected. Oh my God. So if I say the truth, actually, it's like you mentioned in the last one that I want to, these are my words. I love being in debt because being in debt meant that I was working hard. That I don't know what you're, but that I was trying, that I was showing people I can do this. Oh my God. I actually enjoy rejection. It's like, oh
Doesn't make
no, I
sense.
intend, it doesn't make sense, but it makes what I call super sense. It makes
Right.
like a relief, like a
Well, it doesn't
sloughing
make
of
sense to
something I've been.
our conscious mind, but it makes sense to our
It's,
subconscious reality.
even as I'm explaining it, this does not make rational sense. It is not rational.
Right.
It is not in the realm of the cognitive mind to wrap, because it for taking things apart, cutting things, and seeing the difference. My intuitive mind, my authentic part of my authenticity is my capacity for intuitiveness, for inspiration, and for imagination. I am now in that realm. And now the rational mind in this new frame of reference simply motates me through, gives reasons that are different now of why this happens. So I'm experiencing this different because I discovered that I came to believe, my frame of reference, that love had to have an element of rejection, even though that wasn't a conscious thought. It was a feeling tone. My survival depended on me keeping that feeling tone because that's what I survived. So this weird thing we talk about, reticular activating system, brainstem, midbrain, the survival mechanism, fight, flight, freeze, please, everything in the results column that I started with, codependency, alcoholism, avoidant behaviors, rageaholic, were all reactive, coming from that adrenaline, which I was immersed in that little swaddling clothes. Oh, cute baby, only, ooh, you're not the right sex. Ooh, you're not the right color. All energetic. So I don't believe they ever said that out loud. They felt it. And I took that mirroring and owned it. So I'm not good enough. So my belief became my frame of reference: be better, try to be better, always be better, with and not accepting myself as I am.
Well,
I,
we got a few minutes here, and I'd like to drill down on the other element that we talked about last week, but we need to talk about today, which is that feeling tone from that earlier period of our lives, that period when mom and dad were into "I love you," but has it has a biochemical energy in us that
mm-hmm.
creates addiction later on.
Yep.
So it's not just that we look for someone who rejects us when we're adults and we're building relationships. It's that there's a feeling that comes along with that we want. We want that feeling. And that feeling, this is where it doesn't necessarily make sense, except that it does. That's the original feeling we had in our family of origin. That's what we thought love was, because little babies come into the world expecting to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever it is that we encounter, that's what we feel as love. Now, we don't
Yeah.
think of it that way. A 1-year-old can't think these things. But a
Mm-hmm.
1-year-old, like you used the word immersed, a 1-year-old is immersed in a biochemical electric magnetic field generated by our parents and the world that they live
Yep.
in. And then
Mm-hmm.
we're always looking to feel that as we get older, unless
Right.
something intervenes to create something different, which is what the accountability practice taught me, is to be able to, that's why that feeling as the first step of the accountability tree practice, how my feeling begins to validate the truth of my feelings, that feelings are, there's nothing wrong with them. Feelings are natural. And if I had that feeling as a little baby that I've come to look for as an adult, that's okay. But in that
Yeah.
feeling, like use the example that you were referring to about I love being in debt. There was a feelings
Yeah.
tone to that. So once I realized that I had I had attraction to that feeling, to try to find that feeling using indebtedness as a way to get the feeling. The debt had
Right.
wasn't as important as the feeling was.
Right.
And so now you would say, in the accountability practice, now that I feel that, what do I want to feel? Oh,
Yeah.
I want to feel at peace. I want to
Yeah.
feel comfortable. I want to feel sufficient, whatever. And then we use the power of intention. I intend to feel at peace. That's the process by which we generate a new inner emotional tone that we want to feel now instead of this old one that we felt as little children, that whose qualities or whose energies, like you talk about adrenaline, we were addicted to. We felt compelled to go find that in whatever is going on in our lives. Like you said, our relationships, our jobs, our leisure time, all those things would
Yeah.
have that component of how do I get back to that feeling?
Right. And all subconscious, not a rational thought,
Exactly.
all a
That's why it doesn't make
survival.
sense
That's right. It doesn't make
to the
sense.
conscious
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I realized I had love equals rejection, um, I felt something I couldn't describe. Like, how do I feel? Like, give me a word. No, it's a constellation of events or awarenesses that flood through me.
Yes.
It could be from a myriad of, and sometimes when I try to name that feeling, I lose connection to the feeling. So, how do you feel is a request to just drop into the body in this frequency of awareness. Oh, love equals rejection, and that feeling whelms and heals and sorts out. And then I go, oh, I intend that to me now, love equals acceptance. Put it in there. Don't try to figure out how to make myself accepting because I know how to create rejection. So I notice the present moment. And that's what I meant when I went out of my apartment and saw the flowers and saw myself posturing with a friend of mine where I didn't need to posture. I used to think if a woman walked by me and slowed down, she was in love. It's like, she's in love. No, there could many reasons she could slow down. Probably the last one on her list is I love this guy right there, and yet that's the first place I went to, and I began to like be discerning about that. There's, oh, wait a minute, oh no, and I from that exercise, from that awareness, I have developed what I come to say now is the capacity for discernment and detachment. And just, well, I want to say a different frame of reference. I have a whole big different frame that I could refer all these things happening in real time to that are different than what I used to refer them to. So now that's called maturation, growth, self-awareness, humility.
Recovery.
I want to say those words again: recovery, discernment, of trust. Before this, I would tell everybody everything, even people that were not safe. I couldn't see that they were not safe. Now I'm discerning about who I share this information with, because I want to keep my safety. Now is my well-being, not a need to garner rejection. Wow. Wow. Wow.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, we're going to leave it there. We've come to the end of our time together, and thank you as always. And invite anybody who's been watching the podcast who would like to experience this work. We have 4 meetings a week, and information as to the days and times, and they're all on Zoom. So the Zoom addresses are all at the end of the podcast. So please feel free to check them out. If you're interested in John's Love Equals exercise that he just discussed, you can even come to a meeting, say, I want to do the Love Equals exercise, and we'll be happy
Correct.
to lead you through it.
Yep.
I think you'll find, as John noted, and is true for me, that when we figure out what we have love confused with, our whole lives make sense, and we have the opportunity to create something completely different and
Correct.
change our lives into something that we never thought possible. We had a podcast a couple of times ago where we talked about this work allows us to create a life we never thought was possible.
There you go. I like that.
So yes. Before we wrap up, any last minute thoughts, John?
Keep coming back. It works. Come to a meeting. They're all on the screen, all the Zoom invites. Hope to see you there.
Can't say fairer than that. Thanks, John.
Okay.
See you next time.
See you. Love you, Marty.